Hello and welcome to this episode of a Security Scan. I'm Vishal Dahiya, and this week we're going to talk about S-400 air defense system and how it might end up being the game changer for India. The S-400 is the air defense system which India is procuring from Russia. The deal has been done and the delivery is expected in the next few years. So we are looking at a different timeline in the COVID-19 pandemic situation, as Russia has already said that there might be some delays due to this particular pandemic. So we'll look at all these situations in terms of delivery timeline, in terms of S-400's prowess, its features, and how beneficial it will be to our defense forces. For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests today. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Retired Lieutenant General V.K. Saxena. He's a distinguished fellow with the VIF. Also, we have with us Air Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastava, our defense expert, and we're also joined by Ajay Banerjee, a defense correspondent from the Tribune, somebody who keeps a tab on all these developments. Let me begin with you, General Saxena, since you've been, with the Army's air defense. Let's bring S-400 in perspective here. Let's understand what exactly is this air defense missile system.
Okay, this main question can be seen in three different parts. What is S-400? What was its need and how it has evolved over time, and how the system becomes a game changer. So let's take the first thing, that S-400 is a long-range air defense and anti-missile system. So by that definition, it can take on the enemy's air threat, which is prosecuted by fourth, fifth generation aircrafts, attack helicopters, cruise missiles, air anti-radiation missiles, firing all sorts of rockets, missiles, precision-guided munitions, etc., etc. At the same time, it can take on the threat from enemy's ballistic missiles. We are aware that our western neighbor, Pakistan, has got ballistic missiles of the ranges from 80 kilometers to 2950 kilometers, while China has got ballistic missiles starting from 550 kilometers to DF-41, 14,000 kilometers, and capable of launching the multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. That means multiple targets which can be independently targeted. Now, if this is the purpose of the system, what is the need of the system? How it has just evolved? S-400 everybody is talking about. Okay, let's go back to the 60s and the 70s, when the air threat, which I just talked about, used to be prosecuted by just two vehicles, aircrafts and helicopters. And that also, they were fair weather, and they used to prosecute the air threat in the visual domain. So it was all right, and also the number of vulnerable areas and points which were to be protected were also very finite. So it was all right if you used to put the guns all around it, and of course the air defense by the aircrafts, you used to put the guns in single ring or multiple rings, and it was fine to take on the fair weather threat. But what has happened in those 5 decades which have gone back? The air threat has grown exponentially. First of all, the air threat, which was only aircrafts and helicopters, has been joined by deadly multi-role aircraft, attack anti-radiation missiles, cruise missiles, and all sorts of munitions which are smart, intelligent, precision-guided, beyond visual range, and soft-kill weapons. At the same time, the ballistic missile threat has grown. So it has been realized that it is not possible to just protect this air threat from a simple ring of guns which you used to put. So experts realized over a period of time that to take on this air threat, we need to deploy multiple ring of weapons. Now, why this multiple ring idea has come out? The requirement, operational requirement, is to detect the threat as far as possible and punish it with successive weapons without any breaks seamlessly from the time it enters at the long range till the time it is destroyed. Now, how do you do it? Every gun, every missile has got a finite range and finite altitude. You cannot have a missile deployed at Delhi to fire all the way to China. You have to have multiple ring of weapons deployed in a manner so that the firearm of the air defense weapon extends from the guns which are 4 to 5 kilometers, goes up to the very short range weapons 20 to 30 kilometers, goes up to medium range weapons up to 100 kilometers, and long range weapons beyond 100 kilometers. Now, this is the firearm. It was realized that this firearm is all right, but the threat is growing multi-dimensional, and also the threat is going in the ballistic missile, in the surface-to-surface missile scenario in a great manner. Now, this thought was going on in 2000. What happened? The country decided to make an independent ballistic missile defense system. To take on the ballistic missile, you require a ballistic missile defense system, which can detect the incoming missile, which can track it, and which can fire missiles to destroy it. Now, this was done in around 2000. We made a system. We decided, in fact, I am associated with the system. We made program AD, and which is now operational. It has got two phases. Phase 1, 2000 kilometer. It can take on ballistic missiles up to 2000 kilometer. And phase 2, it can take on ballistic missiles up to a range of 5000 kilometers. It was realized around 1450. It was said now even our program AD is falling insufficient. Why? The quantum of weapon which is there, and secondly, the range and the firearm required is much more. So it was in October, November 2015, a lot of news came out in the media that India is looking for a greater quantum of anti-ballistic, anti-missile systems. If you remember, December 15, Prime Minister Modi visited Russia. And there was a talk of S-400 for the first time. And on 17th December 2015, the Defense Acquisition Council gave an acceptance of necessity for buying 5 regiments of S-400 at the cost of 5.43 billion. Now, what is the trigger? Trigger, as I was telling you, is to take on the threat which has developed over a period of time, and basically ballistic missile threat which is developing from Pakistan and China, as also to augment the weapons of our own program AD ballistic missile defense which we are developing. So it was in December 15 that this happened. In March 16, DEF Expo happened, in which S-400 deal was said the intergovernment agreement is taking place. In May 15, the defense minister told the parliament that yes, we are buying S-400. And if you remember the BRICS summit, 15th, 16th October 2016, this deal was inked between the two leaders. That is how the deal has now come about. So this is the basic idea of how this thing has come about. This is not a normal system. This is not a clear system.
That's a wonderful timeline sum up, Jan Saxena, and I'll come back to you on the features aspect. You touched upon some of them and the importance also you pointed out very clearly. But let me bring in AVM Srivastava here as well. AVM Srivastava, why S-400 for India? As in terms of different air defense missile systems, there are other options as well.
So, Vishal, allow me to take some time on explaining two contexts which are very important to understand why S-400 we may call a game changer, and I think it's definitely a game changer. It has been so endorsed by The Economist, Journal some time back, and also by SIPRI. That is one of the most advanced missile systems in the world. What does it provide you very quickly? It provides you mobility. When it was assessed that how surface-to-air missile systems are going to be very important, we talk about these strategic missile systems we have. But in case of a tactical war, when you are confronting a threat from the enemy of a aerial kind, this is one system which can handle all kind of aerodynamic targets, right from drones until the stealth aircraft. That means you are now going to contain or confront in current context. Let's say if you take the Chinese front, you have J-10, J-11, J-16, and J-20, which is a stealth fighter, which is nicknamed as Black Eagle, and their Wing Loon 2, the drone, which is a combat drone. All that combined you can take care of through one single system, which is S. And this system provides you two major abilities. That is, one is the deployment flexibility. It can move and deploy itself in just 5 minutes. If I need to compare it with another matching system, which can be Patriot to very close to it, but Patriot is much lesser in features as this system is concerned. That takes 25 minutes from readiness to bring it to standby. From total static thing, it just takes 3 minutes. And from standby to readiness, it just takes 35 seconds. This is some kind of agility for this kind of system is absolutely very, very brilliant. You take another course. The other thing is one system provides you multi-layered defense. It can gauge targets at 40 kilometers, 120 kilometers, 250 kilometers, and 400 kilometers. That kind of agility we don't have. Otherwise, we need to deploy systems and other air defense on the air defense grid, which takes care of various ranges. So in one system, with this kind of phenomenal mobility, you have this going on. Let me explain the other context, the geopolitical context. Why the system becomes very important. And in the backdrop, you must keep BrahMos also in mind, because that's the offensive weapons. So if you take the geopolitical context, you see how China is going to, is expanding its footprints of whatever it perceives as its, whether on South China Sea, whether on the dark side, or in Galwan Valley, or on near Arunachal Pradesh. It thinks certain things, or Taiwan, or Hong Kong, or Malaysia. You see the events which have happened in recent past. China is trying to flex its muscles and say that what is the grand China vision? And for that, you must get into the mind of its leader. Very recently, that disaster is the crucible for you to build what you want to build and realize your dreams. You ought to see this in the backdrop of COVID-19, in the backdrop of cyber attack on Australia, in the backdrop of what they did. China even, kind of nailed one P-8 anti-submarine aircraft, which was flying in international airspace over South China Sea, the American Navy aircraft. It has that ability. It sunk one of the Vietnamese fishing vessel very recently. It went into Malaysian exclusive economic zone in South China Sea looking for oil. All these things which are happening around, they give an impression that there is an emergent China which thinks that it needs to flex its power, which it has obtained in over 4 decades, needs to bring home that either you become like Bangladesh, like Pakistan, like Sri Lanka, like Nepal, or you need to confront or see the muscle of China. In the context of South Asian region, we have India as one of the point, and I must say here that our response to Galwan violence has been very matching. And just to assure you that I have done some kind of research as far as China's ground forces are concerned. We are already well matched in terms of troop strength, in terms of tanks, in terms of mobility, agility. In terms of the aerial threat, we are well matched because we have placed, we also have along the border of Himalayan border, we got several major bases and 15 ALGs operating. Also in Arunachal Pradesh, we have our BrahMos position. So if we take all that picture, India can give the matching response. It is very capable. And with the induction of S-400, early induction will give us real good results. We will be in a much better platform to challenge and to contain China, which needs to be done in this kind of scenario, what is developing now on the international stage.
Definitely what you're pointing out there seems to be indicating that S-400 Triumph will give us that edge, which is very much required in this current geopolitical scenario. Ajay, your views on the S-400 Triumph, air defense system, and obviously the current geopolitical scenario as well, the way both the gentlemen, General Saxena and Srivastava is pointing out in terms of features, timeline, and the geopolitical scenario.
See, my friends on the panel have already listed out what the S-400 is. I will just add one more thing. The S-400 can also target nuclear missiles. Besides the aircraft, the drones, everything, it can also bring down nuclear missiles. It can send out multiple, it can track around 300 targets over 400 kilometers, and also send out multiple projectiles to bring down those targets. That is the kind of ability it has. Now we talk about the geopolitical scenario. Vishal, first of all, keep in mind when this contract was signed, when we announced that we are taking the S-400, America was threatening to impose CATSA, sanctions against Russia, and was telling us, do not take it. Now this was an tacit diplomacy. I would raise it going back into 3 or 4 years. When we signed one of the agreements with the Russians, I think it was the communication, the CISMO was signed, communication and understanding was signed with the Russians. And 2 months down the line, we signed and announced the S-400. So we had balanced our equation with the US and the Russians. It was very clear. We had told the Americans that we cannot disengage with Russia. I still remember defense minister, the then defense minister, and the then foreign minister very categorically, and the now foreign minister who was in the foreign secretary, categorically clarifying that our relations with the Russians cannot change. We have taken it for self-defense, and American sanctions do not hold. America tried a couple of times, matters went to the Congress, but still our diplomacy won that in the background. That is one aspect we should always remember in diplomacy. It was a major strategic victory for us when we defied the threat of CAATSA sanctions against us and Russia and went ahead with the deal. S-400 definitely is a game changer because, just to give a ground picture, what I gather from people at the forces, if an S-400 system is deployed at Jalandhar, it can track targets over Peshawar in Pakistan and also in the current scenario over the Khotan Air Base in Sichuan in China, and also the Nikkari Air Base, main air base facing Ladakh. So you can know the kind of scenario it can once it is deployed. It is not at the moment deployed, we don't have it, but the minister has gone to Russia and has spoken about the S-400. What we learned from media reports originating from Moscow is that Russia had to take some time because of the COVID crisis. They have some issue of workplanes and their workforce not coming into work because of COVID. That's the international pandemic. We all know that that is the problem. But otherwise, Mr. Rajnath Singh made a very vital statement in Russia. This statement was telecast live on the Twitter handle of in Russia, where Mr. Singh said, the defense minister said, that all our proposals were taken positively by the Russians. Now, this Vishal in diplomatic language, to me as covering MOD for almost 2 decades now, means everything what we told the Russians was agreed. Mr. Rajnath had a very, very vital meeting with the Prime Minister of Russia. The Defense Secretary, our Defense Secretary, Dr. Ajay met his counterpart over a separate meeting. And these meetings were almost 1 day before the Victory Day Parade. Victory Day Parade, I must remind you, was on June 24th in Red Square, Moscow. And before that, 1 day was spent, June 23rd was spent just on these meetings and what is to be done. Because we have a long list of things to be purchased from the Russians. And the Russians have been very, very, I would say, I would not use the word grateful, but have been acknowledging our aspect of defying CAATSA sanctions and going ahead with the S-400 deal. That is the vitality of this deal, Vishal.
Okay, and so in terms of delivery timelines and all that, how does that translate? This particular visit of defense minister and the delay which was happening due to COVID-19 scenario and the current geopolitical situation. How do you look at the entire situation? What can we expect in terms of delivery timelines?
See, 2021 is the timeline we are told for S-400. Maybe pushed back by a couple of months, but Mr. Rajnath Singh again said that the Russians have promised him that they will advance some timelines. Because Russians can always do it. They have that expertise. They have that long 70, 80-year-old defense manufacturing base, which they can push in additional manpower to a certain project and get finished. Because it is all about skill sets. They have those skill sets available. So they have promised to the Indian delegation that some of those things will be advanced. All contracts will be met, and some of those contracts will be also advanced. This is the promise the Russians have given our defense minister on the 23rd of June, just 2 days ago. Now, with regard to timelines of S-400, I would say that let this team come back from there. Media reports are saying 2021, push back by 2-3 months. That is all, Vishal.
Okay. Just Saxena, your views on the geopolitical scenario out there, as AVM Srivastava was pointing out, how this would become a game changer for India, specifically in the overall geopolitical scenario here right now, which is playing out.
This game changer word is becoming very common with everybody, as also S-400. But let us just analyze that how this one will become a game changer. We have to look at the air defense system, air defense and anti-missile system S-400. Now, this is not a system which has evolved yesterday. It is a system which started evolving from 1978-79. When the Russians started to talk about the long-range surface-to-air missiles for their strategic VAs and VPs. Over a period of time, 3 verticals of the system developed. That is P vertical, V vertical, and F vertical. P for Army, V for Mechanized Forces, and F for the Navy. Now, if you look at any system of the air defense variety, you have to look at 3 arms of it. One is sensors, one is shooters, and one is battle management and control system. Now, as to the sensors of S-400, you will be surprised that it started developing in different forms. There used to be three different types of radars. One looking at medium and high altitude called 36D6. One looking at low altitude, which is 76N6. And one was specifically designed for ballistic missiles. So this is the first era. Three different radars, one looking at medium altitude, low altitude, ballistic missile. Then the system combined the three and made a all altitude radar called 64N6. All altitude, medium, low, and ballistic missile. Then they came out with another radar in this scenario that we can do what it can do. It can do 3D panoramic view. That means presents a 3D view. So as regard the sensors is concerned, a sensor with a capability of 600 kilometers can track 300 targets at a time and engage 36 targets at any one time, looking at all the altitudes together, that is altitude of medium and high, low and ballistic missile and stealthy target. This is the strength. These sensors only. Now sensors. Now talk of the shooters. Now very particularly and peculiar of this system, this is one weapon where a single platform can launch multiple missiles. And missiles of 96M, even E2 variety, of 40 to 120 kilometer range. Then there are other missiles which are 250 to 400. Now ranges are not that important. What is more important is how these missiles have been geared and protected in their guidance and navigation system. Now in air defense, there are different types of navigation system. One is called the cross navigation, which is command to line of sight. That means you look at the aircraft, you look at the missile, correct the two. The first two missiles belong to the cross variety. The other missile, 46 and 250 kilometers, belongs to a different variety. What is that? The radar looks at the target, the reflected waves come back to the ground, and the ground directs the missile so that the aircraft does not know where the missile is coming from. And the fourth, which is the 40N6, 400 kilometer range, is an active seeker. What does it mean? Missile is guided to a point, and from there, its active seeker takes on the target and guides itself to the target. Now, this sort of a different type of survivability, different type of ranges from a single platform. Now come to battle management and control. Now we have 76% of our inventory, 68% throughout the Indian Army, 76% for the ground-based air defense is Russian. So it has been checked out and it has been confirmed that this system, battle management and control system, which is fully automated, capable of generating the recognized air situation picture, will merge into our AFNet scenario of your integrated air command and control system, merging the three together. Now, we talked about the sensor, shooters, and battle management. Comes the most important question: why game changer? Why game changer? Now, today, a ground-based air defense scenario, you have guns and very short-range air defense missiles of the range from 5 kilometers or 3 to 4 kilometers to 6 to 8 kilometers. Today, we have short-range surface-to-air missiles 20 to 30 kilometers. Today, you have the medium-range missiles of 60 to 72 kilometers can go up to 100 kilometers. Today you have long-range missiles only now in the test phase, more than 100. Now look at this weapon bringing in a capability from 40 kilometers to 400 kilometers. A radar which can look at 400 kilometers, 300 target, 36 can be targeted, and a ballistic missiles of the range of 4800 kilometers.
Okay.
Now the political establishment realized that our own ballistic missile defense system is not adequate to protect everything that we want to protect. What we want to protect? Large areas of ground, seats of power, and in the current geopolitical situation, suppose the threat builds up from the Ladakh side, from the Tibet autonomous region side, from the Arunachal Pradesh side, where is that sort of a sensors which can look that deep, which can take on all sorts of threat from aircrafts to ballistic missiles, and which can carry out multiple missiles. Now, this is not a system which will come and stand like a singleton. It will be meshed and matched. Now, if you were to deploy 5 regiments are coming, each regiment has got 8 launchers. Each launcher has got total 32 missiles will come. So there are those many missiles. Imagine those launchers and missiles. Even 3 radars deployed along the China border from Saxena to Arunachal Pradesh can cover the entire sector. Look at the capability. And with this capability will be meshed with the capability of the air defense in the air and the ground. For example, our own BMD system, our own missile system, QRSAM, and so on. Now, a more important thing which has to be understood now is the timeline. When this contract was signed on 15-16 October 2016, the timeline was 2020. That is 36 months from October 16 brings us to December 19 or January 20. So it was said that it was 2020 to 2024, the 5 regiments will be delivered 24 months after 24 months after, like that it is. But now, because of the COVID-19, Russia has clubbed our supplies with other countries and pushed it to December 2021. Our defense minister, which has gone there, has said that, look, you had promised 2020 to 2024, you are now taking it to December 2021. We require the census. My sense is that should the push come to the shovel, there might be a emergent deployment of certain system, not out of our contract, but even given, because Elmas Ante, Vice President, has clearly said that we have in stock both the sensors, the shooters, and the battle management system. Some of them could be deployed in an emergent mode. This is nobody is saying it now, because at the present moment everybody is talking on December 2021. The present first visit of the defense minister out of COVID into that country was to keeping in mind the eyes and ears which this system can provide, and also it can give the fillip to the air defense capacity.
Definitely. General Saxena, that's a very important and significant point out there in terms of understanding why it is a game changer, and it's because of the capabilities S-400 has. We're running short of time, but let's take quick concluding comments from AVM Srivastava and Ajay here as well. AVM Srivastava, let's begin with you. Quickly, if you could sum it up in 1 minute or so.
So essentially, I would like to say, Vishal, for the audience, for one thing, that with our capabilities, because this must be very uppermost in these times with all citizens, that with our capabilities which are there with the Indian Air Force in terms of BrahMos and other air defense missile systems which are on ground already, we are very well covered. With this we have another missile, very effective. And as Ajay has brought out, which I missed the point initially to highlight, is that it also takes care of ballistic missiles. If you take that scenario, also it takes care of saturation rates, because it can track 300 targets in one go and engage 72 targets for fatality. Another thing which I must highlight here is that this system's probability as compared to its nearest competitor, that is Patriot, this 2 missiles can take care of even a small drone, a stealth aircraft, where in Patriot you may need as much as 3 to 4 missiles. And here 2 missiles can be guided to the same target in one go, dynamically. So with that salvo launch, probability of hit goes almost near 100%. And that is one thing which we need to have on our side in case of any conflict. I'm not predicting the conflict, but what I'm saying, in case the balloon goes up, what we say, we must match our ground strength, our air strength, our air defense strength, our capability to strike their VAVPs. If they're trying to strike our VAVPs, we must be able to defend it. That's where this system falls in with its capabilities.
Okay. We have to be prepared and ready there as well. Ajay, your concluding comments here.
See, the point is, when we talk of the cost of the system, I must bring out for your viewers, it is around 39,000 crore rupees. This is the biggest ever deal we have signed, a single deal with the Russians, which is bigger than anything else we have done with them so far till date. And our ties with the Russians and also the previous USSR or Moscow go back to 1960s. In these almost 60 years, we have done this the biggest deal ever. The importance of the missile has already been told by Srivastava sir and Saxena sir. See how it brings it, because I see that we may need it more number of these missiles because of the two-front war scenario which we may face anytime now, because what has happened with China in the LAC at the moment is happening. Anytime the Western Front would also flare up. But when this missile comes in, possibly we need to assess, the experts need to assess, do we need more number of these missiles for a joint two-front warfare which we face from Pakistan and China simultaneously? Because today our geopolitical scenario around us is changing very, very rapidly. Because China is today investing heavily into these countries which neighbor us. So time will tell how things pan out, Vishal.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajay out there, General Saxena and AVM Srivastava as well for sharing your views here with us. We definitely will come back again next week with a different topic. But as our panelists pointed out, this is the reason why S-400 is considered to be a game changer. The timelines might vary a little bit depending upon the arrangements between both the governments and due to the COVID pandemic scenario as well. But the capabilities undoubtedly make S-400 a game changer and a force multiplier for Indian Defence Forces there. Thank you for watching Rajya Sabha Television, and do not forget to follow the social distancing norms, and please step out of your house only with a face mask. Thank you.